yourself. I need you to make you turn. I know. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me? We won't leave it to chance. We can't wait on romance. We'll never be the same again. I could keep the light burning in the darkness. You'd be my escape. Why have we been so easy to unfold? Future might seem average, but we're getting close. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me? We won't leave it to chance. We can't wait on romance. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me? We won't leave it to chance. We can't wait on romance. We'll never be the same
You're streaming with the Fantasy Follow. Sunday's here. Football is on its way. Week 4 fantasy football. Chance to get that W today. A lot of big games to watch. It starts right now. It's a big day of football. You can do this. Make those good decisions. There's never a better time than this week. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Follow. This is the TFF Live Sunday pregame show. It's week 4. We can't wait to get it started today. A lot of football to watch and a lot of fantasy football talk leading up to the start of today's games, helping you get ready for your fantasy matchups. We are here right up until game time. We got a lot of content for you, but as always, we are here to answer your fantasy football questions all show long. Drop us a chat. Even if we are doing other content at the time, we will get back to your questions. That is what we love to do. If you're watching on replay, feel free to leave us a comment. We love to hear from you there as well. But either way, let's get right into it. It's week 4, and today we are re-evaluating. We're taking a look at some players whose fantasy production so far this season hasn't necessarily lived up to their draft spot when we started the year. Starting out with Allen Robinson from the Chicago Bears. He was at an ADP of WR11. He is currently WR66. That is a difference of 55 spots through 3 weeks. You see his production fantasy-wise with the fantasy points for the first 3 weeks there and his wide receiver finish for each of those 3 weeks. His best finish so far this year being 49th, nowhere near where we expected to draft him. Hopefully, some of these players can start to turn it around here in week 4, and certainly Allen Robinson hopes that he can find that connection with Justin Fields today and kind of get his season going a little bit. Robert Woods is another player in this category through 3 weeks. He's currently the wide receiver 47 overall for the season. He was drafted at 17, so that's a difference of 30 spots right now. Not too sure about how Woods is going to respond in this offense in LA right now. It's clear that Matthew Stafford has a great connection with Cooper Kupp. We haven't seen the same thing with Robert Woods yet. Can that possibly turn around if defenses start to key in more on Cooper Kupp and try to shut him down? Or will we continue to see Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, players like that kind of be around the same level as Woods, whereas you might have expected Woods to be a little closer to the level of Kupp going into this season? If you have Calvin Ridley on your roster, you probably drafted him quite high. He went off the board as wide receiver 4 in drafts, currently at WR25. Not a lot of great production so far this season in that offense in Atlanta. A decent second week where he cracked the WR2 barrier, finishing at 17 for the week, but 59 and 26 the other weeks. This week, no Russell Gage in the lineup. Again, hopefully that they can start to get it together in that offense in Atlanta, and Calvin Ridley might start to perform at the level to where it would be quite near where you drafted him. This player worries me. Jonathan Taylor at this point, a little bit banged up, and if you got him on your roster, again, you drafted him quite high. He went off the board as RB8, currently at 28, a 20-spot difference there. Only 1 week inside the RB2 level, that first week finishing at 11, but the other 2 weeks not even at an RB2 level. So Jonathan Taylor, good matchup this week against Miami, but a little banged up. We will see if he can put together a nice performance in week 4. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he had a decent week last week, cracking the RB2 barrier there at 18, but he was drafted at RB14 and currently the running back 34 overall in the season. Again, he's hoping to build on that performance last week and continue to look to move in the right direction here in week 4. Let's take a look back at recap from week 3, looking back to the play that we saw last week around the fantasy football world. We will start out, as always, at the quarterback spot, and it was Josh Allen leading the way for the Buffalo Bills, 37.20 fantasy points. That was 358 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, adding another touchdown on the ground as well. Really nice day for Josh Allen getting it going there for the Bills. Justin Herbert, first real big week for Herbert this season for the Chargers, 281 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, 30.80. Matthew Stafford's been playing great. 343 through the air with 4 touchdowns. Then you had Tom Brady, who's also been playing great. 432 with a touchdown and also a rush touchdown for Tom Brady as well, 28.70. And then Sam Darnold, 304 for Carolina. I think Sam Darnold is in line for a potential good week this week as well. 25.30 there for Darnold for the Panthers. Over at the wide receiver spot, it was Mike Williams leading the way. Mike Williams has had a stellar start to this season. 33.20 fantasy points last week, 122 yards of receiving with 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams is awesome. We know that. 132 yards for him last week with a touchdown. Cooper Kupp for the Rams has been playing great. Certainly the favorite of Matthew Stafford in that offense, 30.60 for Cooper. Justin Jefferson for the Vikings, 26.80. I believe it's the first time we've seen Justin on the top 5 this year. That was 118 yards receiving with a touchdown. And then Emmanuel Sanders for the Bills. Nice week there for the new Buffalo Bill this year. 94 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns through the air, 26.40 was his total. At the running back spot, it was Najee Harris, who I think he had 86. I think he just got another target from Ben Roethlisberger. He's now up to 87. No, 88 targets already. Somehow Ben Roethlisberger is still throwing him passes from last week. 28.20 for Harris. That was just 40 yards of rushing with all the issues they've had there in the rush game. But however, like I said, it was actually 19 targets, 14 catches, 102 yards through the air. Big day there for Najee Harris. Kareem Hunt for the Browns. Great day as well. 81 on the ground, 74 through the air with 6 catches, 27.50. Zeke Elliott with a better week last week. 95 on the ground, added 21 through the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. James Robinson, welcome back. 88 rush yards, 46 through the air, 6 catches, and he added a touchdown on the ground. And then DeAndre Swift, 23.70 for the Lions, 47 on the ground, 60 through the air. And then over at the tight end spot, this is a tight end top 5 full of players that are probably not on your roster, except for these guys, Kelsey and Kittle that we've heard of. But Dalton Schultz led the way with 26.00 for the Cowboys. Tyler Conklin for the Minnesota Vikings at 20. Mike Gesicki for the Dolphins, who has been super up and down, 18.60. Travis Kelce, I think we've heard of him. I think he wakes up and is on the top 5 list already. 104 yards receiving there for Kelce. And then George Kittle back in the top 5, 17.10. That was 92 receiving yards, 7 catches on 9 targets. So nice to have George Kittle back in there. And that's your week 3 recap. So good to look back at last week's games as we look forward to this week's games, and we got a lot of good action today. The first thing we'll start with today is first let's talk about our 6 picks game. That is available right now, and the link is in the description area below. You can click on that link and make your 6 picks for week 4. It's very simple. We'll put the rules up here for you on how this works. 6 fantasy matchups that are in the same games. You pick the winners to all 6 of those matchups. There's no cost to play or anything like that, but we keep the standings all season long. You're using PPR scoring, and essentially you're just trying to pick out which player you think in each matchup will have the better fantasy day. Those picks close at 1 o'clock today, and get your picks in now. We will take a look at the leaderboard, and this is your opportunity to show off your fantasy football skills and get on that leaderboard. Chris Noriega leads the way, followed by Vansco in second, and Bill Romanowski in third. So get your picks in. This is week 4. See if you can climb up that leaderboard and knock some of these other guys off of it for leading into week number 4. All right, let's pop over to the chats here, and let's take a look at what we got here. We got an early chat from A. Aladdin, so let's go ahead and get that to start. Again, reminder, the chat is open all show long, regardless of what other content we're talking about. We are here for your chat, so feel free to drop us a question, and we get to those as soon as we can. A. Aladdin, you are looking for one of our regulars. Again, welcome back, A. Aladdin. Pick 2, Mike Davis, Corey Davis. We're out of Davises, so that's all we can do there probably. Trey Sermon, Jamal Williams, half-point PPR. All right, to help us out here, let's put some matchups up. We like to do that. We've got a few more weeks in the books now, so we've got a little bit more data to go off of than just, like a 1-week deal that we had. So we're talking about some running backs here. So let's go ahead and take a look at those running backs, and we'll start in the order that you've got them. So starting with Mike Davis for Atlanta, that is a 1 o'clock game against Washington. Washington currently giving up the 8th fewest fantasy points to the running back spot. Next, we'll look at Trey Sermon for the 49ers going against the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, the number 1 in terms of fantasy points allowed to the running back spot, as you see there on the left side of your screen. Jamal Williams for the Lions against Carolina. That matchup is, let's see where Carolina falls. Very last, actually, 32nd. The fewest amount of points allowed to the running back spot. And then we're talking about Corey Davis. And so we'll look at wide receivers there. The Jets playing against Tennessee. A nice matchup here. Tennessee, the 3rd most fantasy points allowed to that wide receiver spot. So if we're picking 2 here, A. Aladdin, I think that Trey Sermon is your first pick. Elijah Mitchell is not expected to play in this game. Have not heard any reports saying otherwise. So this is actually Trey Sermon's opportunity to kind of make a dent in that backfield. Hopefully the coaches are a little bit back in his favor, and if he can have a great day there, this is the opportunity that he kind of needs. I think that he's going to get the bulk of the volume there for the 49ers, barring any weird stuff that we sometimes see with San Francisco. But I think you expect Sermon to mainly be the guy there this week. I think that means you slide him into your roster there. For your second pick, Mike Davis, I think we've seen a lot of his work start to shift towards Cordero Patterson, where we thought Davis was going to get the bulk of the work there for Atlanta. So I think we might move away from that. And Jamal Williams, again, the matchup not great there, and we have seen the split start to be a little bit more in favor of DeAndre Swift than Williams. So I think by all of those thoughts, we will look towards Corey Davis next. Now, I know the deal with the Jets, the quarterback play is not that consistent right now, and that is an issue. And obviously that's going to cause Davis to sometimes have disappearing games, but we do still expect him to be the number one receiver in that offense. He has had one really nice game already, and the matchup, as you see on the left side of your screen, is a good one up against Tennessee, the third most fantasy points to the wide receiver spot. So Aladdin, I think that I would select Trey Sermon and Corey Davis as the two that look good to me there. Of course, as I always say, you guys know your rosters as well as anybody. So, I hope to give you guys the information to make the decisions that you want to arrive at and not necessarily just tell you, you got to do this or you got to do that. But hopefully that helps you out on that one. Then I see another one here from you, Aladdin. It says pick 2. Deebo Samuel, Cortland Sutton, Zach Moss, half-point PPR. We'll take a look at some more matchups for this one. I can tell you that I think already that Deebo Samuel stands out. San Francisco against Seattle. Seattle, in terms of fantasy points to the wide receiver spot, let's see where they fall, 15th. So right in the middle, Deebo Samuel's been very involved in the offense there. I think I would like that pick over Cortland Sutton if you were going to pick just one wide receiver. Between Sutton and Moss, I actually like Moss this week. And I think that now that, you see some injury problems there in Denver. KJ Hamler is now out. So it's going to be probably Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick getting the bulk of the work there. I think I like them both. I definitely think that Tim Patrick is a very feasible pickup off the waiver wire this week in that game. In terms of the matchup, if we take a look at that, Denver at home against Baltimore. Baltimore sitting at 19th in terms of fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver spot there. And then we look over at the Zach Moss side in terms of running backs. So that's Buffalo home against Houston. Houston at number 10 on the running back spot. I do think that this is a possible game where you can think about playing. I don't necessarily always look towards the Buffalo run game. I think this is a possible game where this can work out in the Buffalo run game with Zach Moss. I would pick Moss over Singletary. I think Moss is going to be their guy at the goal line. I think they're going to have opportunities there. I also think that the game script is going to favor the run game there for Buffalo this week against Houston. You would expect them to potentially be playing with a nice lead during this game. So I think that Deebo stands out above the other two guys. I think the other two are probably close. Being that it's only half-point PPR, it doesn't, make you automatically choose Sutton. I do think that Sutton is in line for probably a decent day because of the increased volume, but I also think there is some chance for Moss there. If you have to pick between the two, I probably would lean just a little bit towards Sutton, only because of the fact that, there is always Devin Singletary lurking for that Bills run game. And so should that not work out Moss's way, I think that there is probably more reasonable opportunity for volume for Cortland Sutton. Although I will say this, that Cortland Sutton did not see as much volume last week as you might have expected. I'm going to call up his numbers really quick just to take a look at that. If I can find him here. Where are you, Cortland Sutton? There you are. A little bit farther down the list than I thought he would have been. He's wide receiver 55 right now. Obviously, coming back from injury to start the year. But if we take a look at how he's been used, he had that one really big game in week 2 against Jacksonville, 12 targets, 9 catches, 25 fantasy points. Last week, caught all 5 of his targets for 37 yards, 9 fantasy points. So not quite as great of a game. But like I said, I think that the volume, again, Tim Patrick only saw 5 targets as well. It's very possible that the difference in targets was simply the game script there against the Jets. The Jets don't seem to be looking like they're a great team right now. So that probably had a lot to do with that. And this matchup this week here for the Denver Broncos against Baltimore, they'll likely have to be pressed a little bit more to throw the ball a little more. So I think I'm going to lean towards Cortland Sutton in this pick here for you, Aladdin, between those two. Just because of the simple fact that, with Zach Moss, you never know what's going to happen with Singletary if he takes some of that work away. I do expect that Moss will get it. But between these two particular ones, there are some players that I would probably pick Moss over this week. But I think Sutton is probably a reasonable thought here to make a Debo and Sutton for year 2. Hope that helps you out. Aladdin, thank you for the chat. Glad to have you on the stream. And hope that whichever guys you pick for both of those, looks like 2 different leagues for you, hope that they do crush it for you. All right, we got another chat here from Christian Espinosa. Welcome to the stream. Another close one here that you've got. You're asking Trey Sermon or Cortland Sutton full PPR. This is really close to me because I really think that Trey Sermon has opportunity, and I think that's really the only way you could phrase it this week. Because that San Francisco backfield, you know, frequently you see the Shanahanigans happen there. And we really still don't know what the coaching staff feels about Trey Sermon, if there's something else going on there. It seems like this is a good opportunity for him, given the fact that Eli Mitchell is not going to be there. We did see Kyle Juszczyk get a lot of work over Sermon that other week. I want to say that was last week when the same situation happened. I think that Cortland Sutton, you probably feel a little bit more like you know what the work might be. I think that Sermon potentially has the backfield to himself, so I think he has the opportunity for a better day. But I also think there is also opportunity for weird things to happen there that we don't fully know what's going on. So that's kind of where it makes the difference. I think that Sermon probably has a higher ceiling, although I think Sutton could potentially have a nice ceiling as well. With the injuries that they've seen there. I think that what I'm kind of getting at is I'm probably leaning towards Sutton here as well, even though I like Sermon, and the fact that it's full PPR probably helps with that decision. If we take a look at what Trey Sermon has done I don't even know if I can find him easily in the stats here. I'm going to take a look to see if I see him real quick. I'm not sure where he's at overall in the standings right now. Here he is, 26, RB 26 on the year. Has not really been all that involved in the pass game, only 3 targets for the entire season. Who knows how that goes today. I think given the fact that this is full PPR, I think Cortland Sutton is a very reasonable thought to go with there. That'll be the guy that I lean towards here, Christian. I hope that helps you out, and whichever guys you end up picking in your leagues, I do hope they crush it for you. All right, let's put up this notification. The live chat is open. We are here all show for your fantasy football questions, leading you right up until game time. Feel free to drop us a chat, even if we are talking about other content. We will get to those chats as soon as we can, and that is what we like to do the most. We can always give you content, but we would always rather be talking with you than just talking to you. So go ahead and drop in the chat with any of the questions that you have. Let's put up the banner while we get this next part in for the 6 picks that'll run while we're going through the rest of this here. We're going to move on over and take a look at actives and inactives for today's games. And we will go through game by game and take a look at what we got. There's a lot of players that we've got to look at this week. So we'll start out right along the line here. New York Giants at the New Orleans Saints. Let's take a look on the inactive list over here. For the New York Giants, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton both out. We'll see how that impacts Kenny Golladay. Goodness gracious, I don't know why you bring a guy like Golladay to your team if you're not going to try to use him more than they have so far. Let's hope this is an opportunity for him to kind of prove himself in that offense. On the other side of the ball there for New Orleans, not a lot to see there. And let's just check if there was anybody else that we're missing that might have been ruled out a little bit earlier on. I don't believe that there was. So it's basically just the Giants side of the ball that we're worried about in that game. A lot of players to talk about this week on the actives and inactives. Next game that we take a look at here is Kansas City at Philadelphia. Both of those 1 o'clock games. Mainly talking about the 1 o'clock games, obviously, right now, because those are the lists that are out. Philadelphia, nothing really to see there. And on the Kansas City side of the ball, nothing to see there either. So no real surprises in that game. Look for all the main players that you expect to be involved there as normal. Next game up, we'll take a look at Houston at Buffalo. Again, another 1 o'clock game in that one. Houston, nothing to really speak of there either. Danny Amendola out as the wide receiver, but nothing that we really see otherwise there. I do want to say that I believe that it is still the rookie and not Tyrod Taylor playing at quarterback for Houston. I don't remember, was Tyrod Taylor put on IR? I think that he was. Let me go ahead and check on that real quick just to make sure that he's not back. For some reason, I didn't miss that. Tyrod. All right, just calling that up on my other screen. And yes, Tyrod Taylor is on IR. So just wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on that at all. So really not a whole lot going on there in the Houston-Buffalo game, which is a good sign for everybody involved. Buffalo has made Matt Breida inactive, so it's Singletary and Moss there in the backfield. Not much else. Jordan Poyer, the safety out. Perhaps that affects a little bit in their secondary. We'll see how that goes. Carolina at Dallas is the next game out. Of course, we know Christian McCaffrey is out again this week. And let's see if we got anything else here to speak of. By the way, I will speak about the Christian McCaffrey, Cuba Hubbard situation. I really like Cuba Hubbard this week. I have started him over several players, and I picked him up everywhere that I could. And I will say this, I have even considered starting Cuba Hubbard over Jonathan Taylor this week, believe it or not. I think it's a good matchup for Taylor. I'm concerned about the way Taylor has started the season, as we talked about already this show, and I'm also a little bit concerned about him being a little bit banged up. I think I don't think it's unreasonable to think about doing that sort of thing if you were able to pick up Chuba Hubbard. I think he's in a good offense there for him. I think it's a good situation. I do expect a good day there. We'll see what happens for Carolina against Dallas. Could be some points scored in that game. On the Dallas side of the ball, nobody to speak of in terms of players that are out in that game. So it looks like you are good to go on both sides there. Next game up we take a look at here is Cleveland at Minnesota. Cleveland at Minnesota, and again, no Jarvis Landry still there for Cleveland. We expect Odell Beckham to be in line for a nice day there, in a good matchup there for the pass game. And then on the other side of the ball there for Minnesota, I think, again, this could end up being a high-scoring game. On the Minnesota side, we do not have Dalvin Cook listed as inactive, and Dalvin Cook was expected to play in this game, so it looks like he is good to go. If you were planning on playing Alexander Madison, I would say probably get him out of your lineup. Perhaps he gets a little bit more work than normal, but I don't expect anywhere near what we saw from him last week. Certainly a worthy player when Cook is out, but we don't expect that to be the case this week in that game. All right, let's go through one more game here, and then we'll get to the chats that we currently have up there, and then we'll pop back to the remainder of the games. The next game on the list here, Indianapolis at Miami. Kind of an interesting game here. See how Carson Wentz is doing. We don't see anybody listed on the Indy side of the ball in terms of out. And look at my other platform here to see if there's anything else that I see on the Indy side. And no, I don't. When we look at the Miami side of the ball, of course, no Tua. It's still going to be Jacoby Brissett starting there under center. And don't really see anybody else listed there as concerns in that game. So you're pretty much ready to go with any players that you're considering playing in that game. And I will see if Mike Gesicki has that connection with Jacoby Brissett again this week. All right, we'll go through the rest of the actives and inactives. Interesting pronunciation. After we get through some of the next chats here. All right, here we go. Mike Gesicki or Hunter Henry. Wasn't even looking at the chats to know that you just asked that, Christian, when I brought up Mike Gesicki. Very interesting thought here. Of course, Gesicki had that great week last week, but it's not been consistent. In fact, it's been enough of a roller coaster that I'm not surprised. Right now, Gesicki is actually tight end 3 overall for the season. No, he's not. This is showing me week 3. Let me go ahead to the full season. I didn't think he was. Good thing it does show me, and I actually do think that when I gave you the stats for the targets, I was probably only looking at 1 week there before, so those were actually probably wrong. I might go back and recheck that if there's time. Let me click this back. I actually had it on as a week by week. Let's see where Gesicki falls as tight end 14 right now overall. And as you look at his usage in the offense there from Miami, last week, 12 targets, 10 catches, 86 yards. Week 1, 0 catches on 3 targets. Week 2 caught 3 of his 6 targets for 41 yards. So his fantasy points went 0, 7, 19. And we'll put up the stats on the left side of your screen here to give you an idea of the matchup. They've got Indianapolis this week, and you see the Indianapolis currently allowing the 23rd, so that is the 10th fewest fantasy points to the tight end spot. The difference between Gesicki and Henry is, of course, the Jonnu Smith influence there and not knowing which way that potentially goes in that offense for New England. But if we look at let's look at Hunter Henry's production that he's had so far to kind of compare that. I'll call up Hunter Henry on my other screen here. In order, targets 3, 4, 6 in the 3 games that he's played, and fantasy points 6, 6, and 9. So in terms of the difficulty of finding tight ends that you like, at least those numbers are not going to give you zeros. That can sometimes happen. This week playing Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay has been pretty leaky to the pass game in terms of tight end production, 11th, as you see on the left side of your screen. So the matchup edge goes to Henry. I think that I hesitate to say that the volume edge goes to Henry, because it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. I mean, you just kind of don't know what you're going to get from Gasicki. That Miami game, as I'm looking at my grids here against Indianapolis, you would think that would at least be a close competitive game. I don't know which side might have a big edge in terms of a big lead, but you would think if they did have any inclination to lean towards the tight end like they did last week, that perhaps they will again. I think you feel better about the fact that Gasicki saw all those targets from Brissett, and that might continue again this week. I probably would, again, this is a situation where I think Gasicki, you're possibly taking a little bit more of a chance here, because we know we've had a couple of games where he's kind of been non-existent. But I think you have more of a potential for a nice game from Gasicki than Henry, knowing that Henry is most likely going to be splitting targets there for whatever tight ends do get in that offense there with Jonnu Smith. And just for sake of taking a look, Jonnu Smith in that offense is currently overall for the season. Let's see, Hunter Henry is the higher ranked of the two at tight end 22. And overall for the season, Jonnu Smith is 26. So you can see they're right about in the same range for the production that they've had. Jonnu Smith averaging 6.0 a game, and Hunter Henry averaging 7.0. So yeah, that's pretty even. Target-wise, Henry with 13 for the year, Smith with 16. So I probably, especially if you're looking to see which player could have the potential bigger day, if that's what you need in your matchup to potentially steal one where you might be not projected to win, that's definitely going to be Gasicki. If you are perhaps a big favorite, then you may consider more the Henry side for a potential of a better floor. But based on what Gasicki did last week, I think you kind of have to trust that Brissett likes to look for him. And if it doesn't go that way, you kind of just have to kind of accept that possibility. So hopefully that helps you out there, Christian. I'm looking at game times if they're both 1 o'clock. They're obviously not both 1 o'clock games, but the Miami game is a 1 o'clock game. So you'll probably have to make that decision right away. I think Gasicki probably gives you the better opportunity for a nice game of those two. I just don't like it when we see, tight ends that have disappeared in previous games. But you kind of have to accept that and go for it. I hope that helps you out, Christian. And look forward to, I'm looking at the other chats and chuckling a little bit here. Look forward to whichever guy you pick there, crushing it. And you say, thanks, bro. Really appreciate it. And as always, I say thank you equally for being on the stream. You guys are what make the show. And we appreciate all of you for being here. And while I'm saying that, let me go ahead, and I put this up during our while the stream was starting, while the music was playing there, but I do want to put up this notification, and I will reiterate and talk about it as well. Definitely want to thank you, all of our subscribers. As a channel that's still relatively new and growing on YouTube, the first real goal that you're looking towards is 100 subscribers for your channel, and we have reached that goal. And so thank you to all of you that have been with us, all of you regulars, even all of you that have just recently subscribed. We really do appreciate that. If you enjoy our content, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can get those notifications whenever we do have new content. And also feel free to drop us a like. The likes and the subs, they definitely help out the channel a ton. And so it's really awesome to have reached that first goal. Definitely do appreciate all of you. I know there are a lot of regulars who are with us for a lot of our live streams. So definitely thank you guys for being with us, and absolutely look forward to continue the future live streams. And here is one of those regulars. Speaking of Lucius Varenus 44, welcome back to the stream. Lucius, you say morning, and I say morning to you. And you are a lot of Sutton questions today. You are asking Cortland Sutton or Chase Edmonds in the standard league. Also, how am I feeling? How are you feeling about Galladay this week? I'll start with Galladay because I feel like this is the week that Kenny Galladay has to shine for the Giants. If for whatever reason, if they are hesitant about using him more in that offense, I don't know why, because to me, Kenny Galladay seems to be the most talented receiver they have on that team. I know Sterling Shepard's been pretty good. I know Slayton's there. But I've really felt like Galladay is a very productive player when he was with Detroit. No Sterling Shepard this week, no Darius Slayton this week. So this is really Galladay's chance to do something for that team. If we look at the matchup, the Giants on the road at New Orleans, in terms of fantasy points, 14th most, so just above the halfway point. So it's not like it's a terrible matchup. I think that there's a reasonable chance that Galladay can kind of get his season started this week. Certainly you expect more volume at the very least with those other players out. Now, on the flip side, if it doesn't happen this week, then you've got real concerns about Kenny Galladay. With the fact that Slayton and Shepard are both out, now you've got really something to think about on the other side of that. So if you feel like you are comfortable enough with the volume increase to try to give him a start, I don't think it's wrong, but I also don't think it's wrong to wait and see what happens either. This could very well be the best opportunity that he has in terms of workload with those players out. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is back, so he's going to get a lot of that work too. But I do think this is an opportunity for Galladay, so we will see what happens in that game. On the other side of it, we talk about Sutton and Edmonds. We're looking at the wide receiver stats right now. So Denver in that game up against, where do I have Denver on my list here? That's a Sunday. That's a 4:25 game. Of course, it's Sunday. That's today, Joe. That is a home game for Denver against Baltimore. The matchup numbers have Baltimore at number 19, so just below the halfway point for Sutton. Again, a situation where I think it's going to kind of be, in terms of the receivers, Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick with the injury issues that they've had there. So you feel pretty good about I shouldn't say you feel pretty good, because we don't ever want to see people get injured. That's the wrong way to phrase it. But you do think that he's going to see an uptick in volume. Last week, the volume wasn't quite there as it was the week before, but in a game against the Jets, they didn't need it most likely, and that was more what was probably behind it. So I think Cortland Sutton is a reasonable thought. However, it is a standard league, so that does make the running back more of a thought here. And so we look at Chase Edmonds for the Arizona Cardinals. That is also a 4:00 game. The good news is you have time. You don't have to make this decision right away. I always like that, especially because of the fact that it gives you an opportunity to see where you're at in your matchup, kind of figure out which way you want to go. Chase Edmonds has been reasonably productive. Chase Edmonds is not a player that I have on any rosters, but we did talk about him on one of the recent live streams where I looked up his stats, and I was even a little bit surprised at what the level of his involvement has been. I'm going to look it up right now here. Chase Edmonds currently running back 16 for the season. And if you look at his numbers game by game, in terms of rushes in order, 12, 8, 11. The targets is really where it makes the difference here. Of course, standard league, it's not as big of a deal. The targets 4, 5, and 8 in that order. Consistent production, 15, 13, 15, even despite the fact that he's kind of sharing that backfield with Connor. And we saw Connor have that huge game. I don't remember which week that was, but whichever week it was, Chase Edmonds still had the same level of production, even though that big game was there for Connor. So I do think that either one of those guys are kind of going to give you a nice floor to work with here. It's going to be kind of a personal preference. If obviously this is for a flex spot. I know personally I like to have a running back in the flex spot. I feel like it's a better chance at consistent production, feeling like that they're going to touch the ball, where sometimes the offense can go different ways with receivers. But that being said, I do kind of think this is a good chance. This is a nice day for Cortland Sutton as well. So I could see you going either way on this one. Could be a high-scoring game, Arizona and the Rams. The Denver-Baltimore game, I don't know that it would be equally quite as high-scoring, because I think it's going to be a little bit more of a run game, at least on the Baltimore side of the ball. On the Denver side of the ball, I don't know how healthy Melvin Gordon is going to be. So does that impact how things go for the receivers? Not sure. It could definitely impact things for Javonte Williams. So all that being said, Lucius, the answer to your question is not a direct answer. As you guys who are regulars know, that a lot of times that is, because I'm more about information and leading you toward the decision that you feel is best for you. In a standard league, I think there is a lot of thought behind Chase Edmonds. That being said, I have not looked at goal line stats to kind of see if Edmonds is their goal line guy or if that has been Connor. Perhaps if that's something that you have a feel for and it is Edmonds, then I think that probably is enough to make your decision in terms of Edmonds in a standard league. If it is not Edmonds at the goal line and it's typically been Connor, then, okay, I'm reading the report right here. He's not used around the goal line for Arizona. Okay, so that definitely means that, his production is more tied to, again, the numbers that I just read you for Edmonds stats. I'm looking at PPR, and I use PPR as a reference because I feel that the majority of players are probably playing PPR. But if you were to change those numbers I read you to standard and you take those catches out, the fantasy points in order, it goes 11, 8, and 8. So not quite what it was before. And I'll do the same thing to compare that for, Cortland Sutton. And I'll go back and look at his numbers again, just to give you an idea what the difference would be there in terms of the production that they've had. Let's see here. Sutton, again, without the influence of PPR, it would have been 1 fantasy point in game 1. It would have been 16 in game 2, and it would have been 4 in game 3. So the edge there has gone to Edmonds so far. However, I do think this is again, I'm saying the same things. I think in a standard league, given the fact that I usually like to have a flex spot that's filled by a running back, I think my lean would probably be Edmonds here. But I can't fault you either way because I think that Sutton has a chance to have a really nice day as well. Being the fact that it's standard, I think I probably lean towards Edmonds. But take that information and use it for what it's worth and make the decision that works the best for you and that you feel the best about there. Lucius Varenus, one of our regulars. Again, thank you for being with us on so many of the streams that you've been here. Glad to have you back, and look forward to seeing you on future streams as well. Hope whichever guys you pick there, hope they crush it for you. All right, next up is Vansco. Vansco says, welcome back, Vansco, one of our regulars, and also one of our current leaders in the 6 picks game. So go on, all of you that haven't done so yet, make your picks. See if you can challenge Vansco for that leaderboard. We'll put up the leaderboard just in a second here. Vansco says, I can't wait to regret starting Allen Robinson after Marquis Brown scores a 90-yard touchdown in the first quarter or something. Yeah, we talked about this last night on the Saturday Stars show. Boy, I really hope that we talked about it at the beginning of the show a little bit. I really hope that things turn around there for Robinson. He should be a much better player than he is. But as we talked about, he is currently overall for the season wide receiver 66. 66. He was drafted at 11 off the board for wide receivers. So in no way did you expect this level of production for Allen Robinson this year. Again, those are PPR numbers that I'm looking at for that. But just, his highest week that he's had was 49th. I mean, it's not startable unless something turns around. You expect him to be a better player than this. But again, the situation with the quarterback play there and it hasn't been indecisiveness from the coaching staff, but it certainly seems to be not allowing, I don't know how to put it, not allowing things to play out in the best fashion for that team, or just kind of trying to force it to play out the way you want. We know last year with the Cowboys, Andy Dalton, the receivers saw a definite downturn in their production. So if it's been Dalton, then, not a surprise that there's a downturn for Robinson. And last week with Fields, that offense was just terrible. So yeah, it's rough with Robinson, but I understand trusting him. And you follow up by saying that the A-Rob pick would be awful if you had not drafted the Cup gem. And I know you're a Rams fan, so that certainly helped out. And I did see your picks for 6 picks. I don't want to give it away to anybody that's trying to compete with you, but there is a stack in our 6 picks this week. There are 2 picks from the same game, quarterback and receiver, and interesting to see how different people make those picks. And I did see how you made yours, Vance. I won't give it away because I don't want to throw out any of your secrets, but we will see how that plays out. Before I get to the other chats, that gives me an opportunity to put up the leaderboard again. Again, Vansco in second place, had a really nice week last week. Chris Noriega leading the way, and Bill Romanowski, one of our regulars, in third place. And I know that Bill has already predicted that he will be going 6 for 6 this week. So we will see if he lives up to that, or if some of these other players are able to surpass him on that leaderboard. Again, the link is in the description area below. You can click on that link. The picks are available until 1 p.m., but you do have to make your picks on that video in order for us to keep track of them. And again, if you're making picks all season long, we're using your YouTube username, basically, as you see on the leaderboard. So if for some reason you decided to change that username during the course of the season, then that would certainly throw off our keeping track of your picks. So keep that in mind. But that's basically a game for you guys to enjoy. We hope that you do enjoy playing it, and we'll continue to keep those season-long standings and see who is able to show off their skills the most as we go through the season. All right, back over to the chats for a couple more here. Let me see who was next in line here. We have, I believe, next up is Michael McFarland, another one of our regulars, Michael McFarland. I think Michael has been involved. I'm not sure, Michael, did you make picks on the 6 picks game or not? I thought that I saw you there for one of them, but now I'm not sure without looking at it up close. Either way, thank you for being back on the stream again today. You say Robbie Anderson, Nelson Aguilar, or Marquis Brown in the flex. I already have Tony Pollard in other flex spot. PPR Superflex. Do you trust Washington D against Falcons, or should I grab another D? All right, let's start with the Washington side because I'm going to approach this not so much looking at do I trust Washington, but I'm going to approach this from the fact that the Atlanta Falcons have not been stellar this year. And in terms of looking at defenses, I feel like that's kind of a good way to approach this. That's essentially what if you're streaming defenses throughout the season, that's essentially what you're doing is you're playing based on who the team is playing against, not based on the actual team themselves. So yes, the expectations for Washington were probably a little bit more than what we've seen from them, but I also think that Atlanta has not been very good offensively. So I think there is some potential there. I am trying to look up the numbers for Washington, but not getting a whole lot of cooperation from the computer. So I will keep working on that. Let's take a look at what they have projected for this week. Perhaps that'll be easier for me to see what I'm trying to see here. Let's see. Washington, not really all that high in terms of projections, actually. Not as high as I expected at all against Atlanta. Yahoo projection, that is. And I'm going to see what they've done trying to. The computer doesn't like me. In the last 3 weeks, Washington's points here, 7-3 and -4. Not great. Again, you're hoping that Atlanta is not playing well, which they certainly have not been playing all that well. But I think that there are some other defenses streaming-wise that you might like over Washington this week if you're looking for that might still be available. And if I order these by the percentage rostered, and I just consider who is rostered in less than 50%, that'll tell me who there might be there. Indianapolis against Miami, that game is in the green. Miami allowing the 4th most fantasy points to defenses. I think Indianapolis has been decent this year. They're rostered at 48%, so they might be out there. Carolina seems to be playing pretty well up against Dallas, a tough offense that they're going up against. Miami has been playing well on defense against the Colts. Those are all teams that are rostered in less than 50% of leagues, so likely are out there. And believe it or not, Dallas has been playing pretty well on defense. They are only rostered in 21% of all leagues right now. And if you look at their numbers, as I'm calling them up right now, come on, slow over here. 7, 7, and 13 are the numbers for those 3 games. And again, when you compare it to some teams who have played lesser teams, they put up those numbers, 7 against Tampa Bay and 7 against the Chargers. Those are 2 good offenses. And they still put up that amount of points. 13 against Philly. Philly didn't play quite as good. You understand that total going up. But it's not like they just were racking up those points against I hate to use the Jets as the example, but the Jets or a Chicago bad offense, things like that. Those are some pretty good teams that they put up nice numbers against. So I think as this season plays out, a lot of people are going to start to look at Dallas, especially if things continue to go that way, and say, Dallas might be a team we can work with here. Let's look at the other part of your question, the flex part, and let's put up some numbers at the wide receiver spot and go through these games for you. I know what stands out to me right away. I think 2 of the 3 stand out to me right away, and you might be able to guess which ones those are based on what they've done so far this year. We haven't seen a lot from Robbie Anderson. So in that Carolina-Dallas game, Dallas, in terms of the numbers, giving up the 7th most fantasy points to the wide receiver spot. Nelson Aguilar in the New England game. This is a really good matchup for the New England wide receivers. And I also feel like Tampa Bay is going to try to pour it on as much as possible with Brady back in town. So I do think that New England probably is going to be forced to throw the ball to keep up. That's a good spot for the receivers. Tampa Bay, number 1, the most fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver spot. So I know Jacoby Myers is a guy that I like a lot. And I think Aguilar is also in line for some potential there. Marquis Brown against Denver. Where does Denver fall on this list? 23rd, so 10th fewest fantasy points to the wide receiver spot. So he doesn't have the matchup edge there over the other guys. You might trust a Marquis Brown a little bit more. He has been seeing a little bit more volume this year. than possibly in past years. So you think that gives him a nice floor. We'll look up Nelson Aguilar and see what he's done in terms of targets, because I don't know that that's somebody that I've looked up yet to kind of see where he's at. He is wide receiver 58 for the year. So he's a little bit farther down the line. Targets 7, 3, and 8. And in a PPR league, you say this is PPR, he has scored 8, 5, and 4. So certainly has not had the production in line with what a Marquis Brown has had here. Despite the matchup, because of the fact that I think Jacoby Myers is the clear target leader there for New England, that might be enough to make you go over to the Marquise Hollywood Brown side. I'm looking for him. He's currently wide receiver 14. So season long, that's a WR2 consideration in terms of what he's done overall. His fantasy points 19, 23, and 8 in PPR. Targets is 6, 10, and 7. So a little bit more consistent than we might have seen in previous years. I think probably Marquise Brown would be my choice based on those factors and based on the fact that, yeah, I know Sammy Watkins is there, but we know what Sammy Watkins has been in other offenses in previous years, and I don't at least expect that he's going to be the overall choice that's going to continue there. Watkins, that is. So I think Brown, very reasonable thought there. I think that's probably the way I would lean. He's been the better player all year long so far. I don't think there's a need to go away from him, given those factors. So I would probably say that I would think Marquise Brown a fine start there. But whichever guys you start there, Michael McFarland, as I always say, hope they crush it for you. I think I did see a follow-up here from you, or no, I might not have. So nope, Michael McFarland, hope that helps you out. Getting 6 picks. If you haven't made your 6 picks for this week, get over there, check out the video. It's a very short video. It'll take you just a couple minutes. Make those picks and get on that leaderboard. Look forward to seeing you there, and also on future streams. Thank you for the chat. Next up is the All-Star Gamer, and looks like you are a Caps fan down there in Washington. Welcome to the stream, the All-Star Gamer. Glad to have you here. Looks like you might be a new viewer, so glad to see you. You know what? There was a follow-up from Michael McFarland. I'll get back to that next. I've already started with the All-Star Gamer, so I'll do that next. You ask, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams, Adam Thielen, Terry McLaurin, pick 2, full PPR. You got a lot of good options there. That bodes well for you. Let's put up some numbers to see if that helps us out, and we will analyze the games, looking at the matchups. I like to do that, especially once we start to get more data as we're getting a little farther into the season. I do think I've said before with these choices, there are several different factors that I like to consider. And in this order, I will consider ability, volume, matchup, and game script. And I put them in that order for a reason. And that might come into play in this decision here because I consider that a couple of your players here, the difference is that Mike Williams, I don't feel necessarily is as high a tier player as the other players, but he's playing so well this year. That does make a difference. And Hopkins didn't have a great game last year, and not sure if he's a little banged up. I don't see any indications here that say that there was any question marks in terms of him being injured this week. So let's take a look at the matchups. Arizona and the Rams. The Rams currently allowing the 16th, so right in the middle in terms of fantasy points to wide receivers. We've got the LA Chargers. That is the Monday night game against Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is at where they fall on the list here, 18th, so also right about in the middle. Adam Thielen I've liked a lot this year against Cleveland. This is a better matchup. Cleveland is – no, it's not a better matchup. I thought Cleveland was higher up. I might have been thinking the other way around from a previous game. 27th, that's the 6th fewest fantasy points to the wide receiver spot. I have a feeling that's going to be a high-scoring game. Terry McLaurin, I don't think it's really all that bad with Taylor Heineke playing there for McLaurin's prospects there. So I wouldn't hesitate to play him playing against Atlanta. Number 11. McLaurin is the best matchup out of those games. If you like the matchup, I think Hopkins is the most set it and forget it player that you've mentioned there. I think it's tough to put on Andre. Who's Andre? I think it's tough to put DeAndre Hopkins on your bench any week. So I guess it kind of depends on what you like to do here. If you really favor going hot hand or matchup over guys that are studs. To me, I don't know that it would take a lot to get me to click DeAndre Hopkins out of my lineup, no matter what else is going on. If they like him, if they feel he's healthy, then he's too good. I don't want to see that guy on my bench scoring 20, 25, whatever the case may be, and I've decided to go a different direction. Mike Williams is off to a great start. He is actually the leader right now in overall wide receiver. He is two. He's wide receiver 2 for the year right now. 77.5 fantasy points for 3 games, 25.8 a game, only behind Cooper Kupp. Adam Thielen is 4. Man, you just got all the best of every world to pick from here. The guy that's not as far up the list is Terry McLaurin in 21st. So just based on the way they've been playing, I think you could probably pick from the other 3 and put McLaurin to the side. Not to say that he won't play well. He's got a nice matchup, the best matchup out of these 4. But hard to sit down any one of these players as good as they've been playing. I think, to me, given the fact that Hopkins, you expect to be the main guy in that offense in Arizona, I think you start him. Williams and Thielen, similar situations because they are essentially, I don't know if I would consider Thielen a clear number 2, but Williams is a clear number 2 to Keenan Allen to me. So there are other wide receivers in both of those games that will also get a lot of volume. And so therefore, since both of them are in similar situations, I think you go with a hot hand here in Williams. I think the targets have probably favored if you compare between Thielen and Williams. Williams has had 31 targets for the season. I'm sorry, what did I say? Williams? Yeah, Williams has had 31 targets for the season, and Thielen has had 26. So a slight edge there. Same amount of touchdowns for the year. I think that that's enough to make me look Williams' way here and ride that hot hand until he doesn't have it anymore, and just hope that continues for you. So I think my picks here are going to be Hopkins and Williams. I can understand potentially going Thielen instead of Hopkins if you are concerned over Hopkins' play last week. And if that's the case, I don't fault you at all for going that route. Again, only 6 targets, 3 catches last week against Jacksonville. Again, not a very tough matchup. A little bit different this week against the Rams. So, we don't know if the targets had to do with his injury or just had to do with game script or not needing him as much. But I think for me, if it was me, I would want that guy that I drafted that high in that lineup just about all the time. But if you are, like I said, if you are a player that likes to make moves and likes to go out and I don't want to say take chances, but I think, go after it a little bit more would be a better way to put it, then I can definitely understand going Thielen Williams for your 2 instead of that. And I will certainly leave that up to your best discretion. As I always say, you guys know your rosters better than anybody, but hopefully that information kind of points you in a way that makes you feel good about your picks. And I do hope that whichever guys you go with there, they absolutely crush it. And if you are new to the stream, the All-Star Gamer, welcome. Absolutely look forward to see you on future streams as well. Follow-up from Michael McFarland. We will get back to the inactives, actives, and inactives. We only did about half of those so far, so I will get back to going through the rest of those. The closer we get to game time, it's more important to talk about these lineups. We're about 20 minutes away. You guys basically know who is active and who's not at this point, so it's not like I really need to tell you. If you people are on streams watching like this, you're doing your homework. So you probably know where it's at. I know I was literally setting my lineup as we were starting the stream, setting some of my lineups that I had to actually go get a defense in one of my leagues as I was waiting for the Dalvin Cook word because I had Alexander Madison and he was going to be my cut. And I went ahead and did that now that they've said that Cook is expecting to play. So anyways, enough of me going on about different stuff. Michael McFarland, another question I have is, do you think Myles Gaskin will keep slumping the way he's been lately? It's concerning me. It's concerning me too. I thought Gaskin had good prospects for this year. I liked him, and I drafted him in a couple of spots in my leagues. I think I have him in more than one. I hope that he turns it around. I think he's a productive player there. He has been seeing some decent work in terms of pass catching out of the backfield there. So the targets have been there. So if you're playing in PPR, you feel a little bit better about his prospects than if you're playing in standard leagues. I believe he does not have a touchdown yet this season, which has certainly held him back. No, correct. He does not have a touchdown yet this season. If we look at his game-by-game production, rushing attempts, 9, 5, 13 in order. Targets have been there, 5, 5, 6. And the catches were 5, 4, 3. So the fantasy points in a PPR have been 13, 9, 10. So at the very least, if this is the worst Myles Gaskin plays all year and he improves from here, then he has a floor right around that 10-point level, which is not terrible. I think there is a good chance that things can get a little bit better for him. There's been certainly a lot of turmoil with that team, with the injuries to Tua, Jacoby Brissett now in there, and also the fact that I was never really all that sold on Tua as it was. So we might see this offense kind of settle into a rhythm a little bit as we go, and perhaps that means that Gaskin starts to pick it up. I certainly think that means there are options for you if that does happen, whether or not you feel strongly about keeping Gaskin, or he turns into a guy that has a nice game and you turn him into a sell high type prospect. I certainly would not get rid of him by any means at this point in terms of like a drop. I don't think he's anywhere near that. I want to see what happens here. I think he's going to be, we've seen him be a worthy player in the past. I think the potential is still there for that to happen again. So I'm keeping an eye out. He's probably someone that I'm sitting right now, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't be back in the lineup at some point in time. So I do think there's some potential there. It's just going to be one of those things that we have to keep an eye on. What does that Dolphins offense do? And again, their matchup today against Indianapolis, perhaps that is a competitive game where we see a little back and forth. We could see something a little bit different there than we might have seen in other games so far. So keep an eye out for Gaskin. I will be doing the same. Thank you, Michael McFarland, for your chat. Next up, as we go in order, again, if I miss anybody's chat, sometimes this happens when I'm scrolling around, just holler, let me know, say, hey, Joe, you missed me, and I'll go back and get it. We are just less than 20 minutes to game time, so I'll probably try to move through these just a little bit quicker to make sure I try to answer everybody's questions so that they have the opportunity to make those choices. Jackson Walton is here. Welcome, Jackson Walton. I think you might be a new viewer. Mike Williams or D-Hop, this is a common one that we're looking at right now. To me, I don't want to sit a big name like that if I don't have to. Let me put up this while we're doing this. Let me re-put this banner up just for everybody that wants to know about the 6 picks game. I probably play Hopkins here because I like to go with the guys that are the studs. I know that it's a little bit concerning what happened last week for Hopkins. We don't really know if that was related to injury or if that was related to game script and not really needing Hopkins as much. They may have, against Jacksonville, they may have really felt that it wasn't really that important to get him all that involved and kind of just put him on almost on a decoy type basis out there. With that being said, I don't think I've seen any reports that show any concerns on him. Let me call it up and see if there is anything noted on there, because I've been looking at his numbers, but I haven't been looking at the notes. It says he returned to Thursday's practice. Excuse me. So I'm assuming that was a full practice. It looks like it was ribs, which means it probably was just a pain tolerance thing. Again, we expect that Jalen Ramsey might be on Hopkins, but I think that we did on our stream last night. I don't remember if it was Vansco or somebody else that popped in and said that they've noticed that Jalen Ramsey has been covering the slot a lot this year and thought that he might be on Christian Kirk equally. So that's something to look for. But perhaps a tougher matchup there if it is Ramsey shadowing him. Mike Williams in that other game for the and again, the matchups on the left side of your screen there, Arizona against the Rams. Rams currently allowing the 16th most fantasy points, right halfway. And then Williams for the Chargers. That matchup is, where is it here? I'm looking around. Monday night against the Raiders, also a halfway point at 18. So I think this is personal preference for you. For me, it would, I literally, like, this is one of the things about when you talk about these matchups and it's not your team, it's different when it's your team. And I don't have Mike Williams on any rosters, so it's not like I've actually had to make this decision for myself. Because literally, as I started to say I would take Hopkins, the thought that popped in my head was Mike Williams is number 2 for the year right now. So there is legitimate reason to think about playing Mike Williams. The reasons against is you expect Hopkins to be the number 1 guy. And you know that Mike Williams is not necessarily the number 1 guy there for the Chargers, and we haven't seen Keenan Allen have a big game yet. I'm expecting that one of these weeks. Could that be this week? It's hard to say. The matchups are pretty close. When I talk about the different factors, I always talk about ability, volume, matchup, and game script in that order. I definitely put Hopkins at the higher tier player, and that usually wins out for me. But at the same time, man, I would have a difficult time not playing Williams. Is there any way you can get both of these guys in your lineup, Jackson? That would be my thought. Is there some way that you can open up a flex spot that potentially has somebody else that might not be, with as good a matchup or something like that, that you could be able to play them both? Because I would hate to sit either one of these guys at this point. If I really had to choose, if this was my team, as much as I say Hopkins, because the fact that he's the guy you drafted so high, I might not be able to sit Mike Williams as good as he's been playing. I might need to have that hot hand continue at this point. So, yeah, if I had to absolutely pick one, I might pick Williams here. But you're kind of hearing where I'm at and how close that I feel that this is in terms of that decision. I think if it's that close for you, it's probably going to be a game time decision for you. But like I said, if it was me, if this was literally my team and Williams has been playing that well, I probably would have a hard time sitting him on my bench. It's equally a hard time as I would with D Hopkins. So that probably might lean me in Williams' way. I do hope whichever guy you pick there, I hope they crush it. It might be picking against two guys that both have good prospects there. So good luck to get that W here in week 4, Jackson, and appreciate you being on the stream. I do see you have Moore or Najee Harris in the flex, I would assume you're saying there, which is tough because DJ Moore has been playing great. You got this is good problems to have. You got a lot of really good players going here at this point. If Moore or Najee Harris is in at your flex, I would hate to sit Moore as well. Again, against Dallas, that matchup is pretty good. 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers. And then on the Najee Harris side, for Pittsburgh, the running back matchup against Green Bay. Green Bay has not been great against the run last year, 16th middleway point. Because Pittsburgh has been struggling on that offense a little bit, I might think about perhaps it's tough because Harris was he was the leader last week, I think, for all running backs, right? So it's tough to sit him. You got players that it's like you literally can't sit anybody. You almost want to. They talk about when you talk about a dart throw, usually it's for a guy that you hope plays well. This might be a dart throw that's like it doesn't matter. Any one of these guys is great, so just throw a dart and pick one of them. Yeah, if it's PPR, even if it's PPR, it doesn't matter because Najee Harris saw 18 billion targets from Ben Roethlisberger last week. So I don't know how you sit him. I don't know how you sit any of these guys here. Man, I guess given all those factors, yeah, I could see where you're thinking that D-Hop might be your sit out of these guys. I hope they all crush it, and it doesn't matter. You got this many good players on your team, I'm guessing you're probably 3-0 at this point and running away with your league potentially anyways. So I hope this goes to 4-0 if that's the case. But yeah, whichever guys you pick there, Jackson, as I always say, I hope they crush it for you. Go out and get that W. All right, moving over here to Larry. Larry's back with us. Welcome back to the stream, one of our regulars. Larry, a little less than 15 minutes. Larry says, no zoo, no farms, just a cold one and some fantasy football talk. What's this pick 6 thing about? Come on, Larry. For weeks now, I've been telling you to get in the pick 6, or the 6 picks. I keep calling it the wrong thing. Let me put up the, gives me a good opportunity to put up the little promo for this. So go ahead and in the description area below is a link. It'll take you to this video. It's called 6 Picks. It's very simple. I'll put up the rules for those of you that haven't seen it that want to get in. The picks are open until 1 o'clock today when the game time starts. 6 fantasy matchups. They all occur within the same games. You're going to pick the player on either side, whichever one of each matchup that you think has the better chance at the better fantasy scoring day. Using PPR scoring, we keep the standings all season long. It's basically your chance to play along and compete with the other players who are here on this channel. There's no cost or anything like that. It's just a matter of getting on that leaderboard. Like I said, the picks close at 1 o'clock, and our current leaderboard right now, you recognize these names that are regulars on our stream. Chris Noriega has been with us. Vansco is with us all the time. Bill Romanowski is with us all the time. Get in there, Larry, and make your picks. Get on that leaderboard. Come on. You know a lot about this fantasy football thing. It's very simple. It's only a couple-minute video. You leave your picks right in the comment section on that video, and we keep track of them. That's all you got to do. Gives you something extra to watch for in your games. It gives you something, as I know you have Christian McCaffrey on your roster there, so it gives you something to watch while you're pondering the fact that you, again, are without Christian McCaffrey in your lineup this year. So, yeah, go ahead and get in that 6 picks game, Larry. Looking forward to seeing what you can do against these guys. All right, let me see your follow-up here. Dynasty League, 2 free IR spots. I have to stash DJ Chark, right? In Dynasty, yes. I don't think DJ Chark doesn't look like he's going to play again this year. You're telling me you have 2 free right now, so DJ is going to only fill one of them, so that gives you the opportunity to go back and look at it again if you have to. But yes, I think you have to stash DJ Chark because he's a good talent and a young player. So in Dynasty, I think he's somebody that you want to keep around. So yeah, I would definitely stash him. And if you decide that you at some point need to free up an IR spot, then I would consider using him in a trade for another team that needs a wide receiver for future years and perhaps picking up a draft pick. That would be the way that I would look at that in Dynasty. But so yes, for now, keep him and then see what that works out afterwards. All right, Elias Giftopoulos, another one of our regulars. Welcome back to the stream. Should I trade Chubb for Eckler in PPR, and should I start Dolphins D or Washington D? I might feel more comfortable with Dolphins D because I think they played a little bit better than Washington at this point. And I think it's a reasonably good matchup against Indianapolis. I don't know. It's not like a Jets game or something like that. But, Carson Wentz has been banged up. You never know what's going to happen there. Obviously, we always say we don't want to see injuries. But do we know if he's 100% at this point? Chubb for Eckler in PPR. I think that Eckler is the more valuable PPR player overall because he's going to have more volume out of the backfield in terms of pass catching. If I call up the numbers right now in a PPR screen, if you're looking at a straight up trade, right now Austin Eckler is RB5 for the year and Nick Chubb is RB9. And if you look at the difference in targets, Eckler has seen 15 targets and he's caught all 15 of them this year. Nick Chubb has seen 3 targets for the season. He's caught all 3. The pass catcher there is going to be most of the time Kareem Hunt for Cleveland. I like Nick Chubb a whole lot. And I wouldn't hesitate to have him on a team, even if it was PPR. But if you're giving up Austin Eckler to get him, given the fact that Eckler has that PPR value in terms of the pass catcher and is in an equally good offense, I think, to the Browns. I think the Chargers are a little more pass heavy than the Browns might be. But that works in Eckler's favor because of those targets. The run-heavy offense at Cleveland works in Chubb's favor because of his great run game. So I think either one of these players, I would not hesitate to roster them. But if you already got them both and you're being offered this trade or perhaps offering to someone else, I think I probably like the Eckler side of this. And perhaps if it's a trade you still want to pursue, that you think about adding a piece to the so not sure if you're trying to acquire Eckler or if you're trying to acquire Chubb here. I think that's where I'm not sure on this one. So if you're back on the stream, Elias, just hit me back and let me know. It looks like you're saying, should I trade Chubb away to get Eckler? If that's the case, then yes, I would like to try to get Eckler at this point. I think he has more PPR value than Nick Chubb. So yes, I think if you were able to do that on a 1-for-1, then that will work out in your favor. If it's the other way around, you're trying, I see the follow-up, acquire Eckler. Yes, if you can get Eckler on 1-for-1 from Nick Chubb, I think the Eckler side is in your favor to me in that one. Obviously because of the fact that it's PPR. Again, if you can't get the deal, I think Chubb is going to be plenty productive for you, but I don't blame you at all for going out to try to work on that as a potential deal. Hope that works out for you, Elias. Got about 7 minutes to game time, so let me roll through the rest of these. Your boy Mari is with us. You got Z-Miss or Hines? Z-Miss. Help me out here, Z-Miss. Am I losing my mind and I'm not seeing what you're saying here by Z-Miss? I know who Naeem Hines is. I think you might mean Zach Moss. I'm guessing you mean Zach Moss here. Let's put up the numbers real quick. We can do that. They're both on the same screen. The running back numbers here, that's real simple. Moss against Houston. Houston, you expect, will be probably playing from behind, which means potential run game for Buffalo. I like Moss this week. 10th most fantasy points to the running back spot. On the Hines side, this is a good matchup for the running backs for the Colts. Against Miami. Miami currently giving up second most fantasy points to the running back spot. Because of the fact that I don't know if this is PPR. If this is PPR, then it's absolutely Hines. If it's not PPR, then it's a little stronger thought for Moss. But if it's PPR, I think absolutely Hines here. Not only because of the matchup is better, but also because of the fact that Jonathan Taylor is not completely healthy, and I think that might play into the amount of work that Hines does get in this game. So I'm going to say Hines for this one here, your boy Mari, and hope that that helps you out, and I hope that you're able to crush it in that league. And again, I'm going to roll through these. We're about just over 5 minutes to game time, so I'm going to roll these a little quicker with a little bit less analysis, but that's what we need to do when we get towards 1 o'clock. We got Bacchus be chopping. Or Bacchus be chopping. Either way, I hope I get that right there. Welcome to the stream. Looks like you might be a new viewer. Half point PPR pick 2. Carson, Samuel, Moore. Good problems to have here. I like Carson a whole lot. I'm going to look at the matchup real quick just because I know I just said I wasn't going to do that, but it's worthwhile here. San Francisco, the 8th most fantasy points to the running back spot. So that's real good. Wide receivers here. Seattle is, where are they at here? 15th, midway point. And in Carolina, Dallas is a little better. Because I like all these guys here, I'm going to lean towards the matchups here, and I'm going to say DJ Moore and Chris Carson as my 2, even though I really like Samuel. I think Moore has been very involved for Carolina, and he's a very underrated player, and I think Chris Carson is a very consistent player for Seattle. So Bacchus be chopping. I'm going to go with DJ Moore and Chris Carson. Hope that helps you out there. Jackson Walton says thanks. Actually, he says tanks, and then he says thanks, and I say no. Thank you guys for being on the stream, as I always do. Moneyman is here. Welcome, Moneyman. You say Zeke or Carson this week? This is tough, man. I'm going to look at the matchups here because I like Carson a whole lot. Zeke played a lot better last week, which is in his favor against Carolina. Carolina giving up, let's see, where do they fall on this list? Very last in terms of fantasy points to the running back spot. Carson against San Francisco at 8th. So if you really like the fact that Zeke played great last week and you feel like he's back, go with Zeke. For me personally, I do think Zeke's going to be fine, but I think there are going to be a lot of weeks where Tony Pollard gets a little more work, and it's going to be hard to predict. And Carson is going to be really the only guy. In the past, we haven't really seen much of a timeshare in Dallas, but I do think that that's going on this year, and it's going to happen more, at the very least, to keep Zeke healthy all year long and lessen his workload. I think Carson's going to be getting all the work there, and like I said, he's very consistent. It's the better matchup of the two. Carolina way down the list. That's probably has to do more with who they played than their defense specifically. But based on the matchup here and any hesitation about Zeke, I would not hesitate to play Carson here, but I think I wouldn't fault you going either way on this one. Let me put it that way. If it were me, I might play Carson because that matchup is so good. But this is definitely a good problem to have. Hope whichever guy you pick there, hope they crush it for you. Trimsy, welcome to the stream. Lockett or D. Hopkins and Smith or Myers. I like Hopkins. Lockett is a little bit hurt. He is probably going to play, is what it looks like. Let me see if I see it. I did see him on the list. He's expected to play, a little bit banged up. Lockett is very boom or bust, and if he's at least been injured, that leans him towards the bust side. I like Hopkins there. Smith or Myers, Jacoby Myers or Devontae Smith. I like Myers in the better matchup of the two. If I put the numbers up there real quick, New England against Tampa Bay giving up the most fantasy points to the wide receiver spot. And then Philadelphia, I believe this is also a very nice matchup there against Kansas City, but not quite as good, 8th most. And I think Jacoby Myers is the clear-cut favorite in terms of targets there for New England, whereas Smith is close to the favorite and getting there, but I wouldn't say clear-cut, so I'm going to go with Myers for that one. Hope that helps you out. Trimsy, going through these really fast. As we said, 2 minutes away. Brock Guse, welcome. What do you think, man? Pick 2, full PPR. Godwin, Amari, Deontay, and Debo. Tom is your quarterback. I think that gives you the stack with Godwin. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot in that game. It's all these guys. How can you go wrong? Amari, the tougher matchup is with Carolina. So if you want to go away from anybody based on the matchup, Carolina is the tougher in terms of what they're allowing, 26th there. I like Deontay Johnson. We've got no Chase Claypool this week. I think you're going to see a lot of targets there, especially if it's PPR. And I think Debo also going to see a lot of targets. If on the fly, as I'm doing right now, I pick Godwin and Deontay. Again, I usually like to analyze a little bit more. But in this particular situation, I want to give you some names and give you the opportunity to make that decision. The All-Star Gamer is back. Cooks, McLaurin, Mike Williams, Debo, Amari, pick 2, full PPR. Got to pick Mike Williams. I think you go with Amari there because he's the top guy. I know Cooks has been well, but Amari Cooper is just a higher tier player than Cooks. Buffalo defense has been a little tougher. Washington in that game today. Let's see, against Atlanta. I think good chance Washington has the lead, and game script favors the run game. Debo's been really good. San Francisco, let's see the matchup there against Seattle. Seattle is halfway point, and then Amari Cooper, Carolina. The matchup's not as good, but I think I'm going to lean Amari. I'll put them in order. I go Williams 1. I go Amari 2. I'll go Debo 3. I'll go Cooks 4. I'll go McLaurin 5. But that no way means I think any of these are bad choices. It just means that you got a lot of good choices, and I had to choose some sort of an order. Pick 3. Okay, well, I'm glad I put them in order then. So whatever order I just said. I think I said, what did I say? Williams, Amari, and then, I don't know, rewind the stream. I can't rewind my own thoughts, I guess. I think Williams, Amari, I said, and then I probably like Debo next over Cooks because I think Buffalo's defense has been tough, and I think McLaurin, I think you might lose out on the game script. But I don't, again, all these guys are decent choices. Trimsy says, thanks, man, and I say, nope, thank you for being on the stream. And then I see All-Star Gamer did put up that 3. So I gave you that order and I hope that helps you out. Again, it is 1 o'clock right now, so we are game time. Didn't go through the rest of the actives and inactives, so hope you guys got them all as I look on my other platform just for a quick, rather than going through game by game. Players that we know that are out: Russell Gage for Atlanta, Shepard and Slayton for the Giants, Brown and Jones for the Titans. Let's see, JaMychal Hasty for the 49ers, Claypool for Pittsburgh, Gronkowski for Tampa Bay. We saw a game time decision as Swift, Doyle, Crowder, and Jacobs. So what I'm going to actually do is update this because it probably has updated them to whatever they are at this point. Game time decision still listed as Jacobs, but here are the expected to play: Gibson, Cook, Swift, Taylor, Henderson expected to play, Lockett expected to play, Gordon, Kittle. We kind of knew most of those guys. No real surprises there. But hopefully that helps you out in case of anything that you were curious about. Again, it is likely for those of you now, it is game time, so your lineups are set. I surely hope that I completely set all my lineups because I know I got partway through that, and then we started the live stream. Sometimes that happens. I have a few more decisions to make in my own leagues this week. So I'm really going to hope that I have the lineups the way I want them. And if they're not, then what are you going to do? That's what happens when you do a live stream. Either way, it's game time. Week 4 fantasy football. If you're off to a 3-0 start, go get win number 4. If you're off to an 0-3 start, you got plenty of time to work your way back in there. So either way, you got a lot to watch today, a lot of good football ahead. And we hope that you go out there and absolutely crush it in your matchups. Go out there and get those W's and get ready for some good football action. All right. And as we always say, as we wrap it up here, good luck in fantasy. We'll see you next time.